Hello, good evening, and welcome to tonight's late night edition of Hotline Live. As you can see, I'm joined by Scott McDermott, live from the Czech Republic. On the night that Rangers fell to defeat for the first time under Russell Martin, Scott, but still come out through and into which I guess was the sort of aim from the start. Obviously, when you're in these early rounds, they're through, they've got through the playoffs. But Scott, do you know what? Maybe I'm a bit jaundiced because I've paid 12 quid and my missus has told me it might actually be 36 because they've charged me 3 times for it. To some Swedish internet mob who couldn't put 90 minutes together. The thing was buffering. It was a really difficult watch, and that was before you even saw the football. So from what I saw, Scott, you tell me, you were there, seen it with your own eyes. I thought that was a woeful 90-minute performance from Rangers. Probably the worst of the 6 that we've seen so far from Russell Martin's side.
I would probably agree, Jacko. It was poor stuff. Look, I'm going to try and start with the positives. The positives are Rangers are through, as you say. That was the be all and end all. It started the tie. The hard work was done in the first leg, obviously at Ibrox. Other positives: Jack Butland, the goalkeeper, was excellent tonight. Again, I think he's had a pretty good start to the season. Made one save in particular tonight from Adu, towards the end. That was outstanding. I thought another positive, arguably the only positive in terms of the outfield performance, was Lyle Cameron, the goal scorer.
Yeah.
I thought while others around him, more experienced players were losing the ball and losing their heads at times, he was without being spectacular. For a young Scottish boy, he kept the ball. He was neat and tidy. He kept Rangers moving. He was constantly trying, even in the first half, to make late runs into the box and actually go and influence the game by getting a chance or trying to score a goal. He was unlucky in the first half with one effort and over the bar. And then obviously in the second half, when Rangers really needed something, they were desperate for something, at 1-0 down, and Plzen were putting them under the cosh a wee bit. And fair play to Cameron, he makes a really good run into the box with a good bit of movement. It's kind of difficult for us to see, but you'll maybe know better. It looks as if Danilo's kind of skewed his shot, and Cameron's been able to tuck it away. And look, in the grand scheme of things, that goal was absolutely vital, because even at one each, Rangers again, they had numerous opportunities in the counter attack to go and kill it off. Once and for all, couldn't do it, and even towards the end, they were still under a bit of pressure when it went to 2-1.
I wasn't sure they had loads of chances, Scott, in the counter attack. I'll be honest with you, unless that stream that I was watching kept malfunctioning at all the wrong moments, I can't remember Rangers really creating much at all.
It wasn't so much gilt-edged chances, Jacko, but there was opportunities there. I mean, when it went to
a better final ball.
Aye, I mean, Plzen obviously charged forward at that stage because it's all or nothing for them. And there was numerous opportunities where Rangers broke, even in their own half, and Plzen had only left 1 or 2 at the back. And whether it was Gassama or Antman or Danilo, even towards the end, Cortez did a couple of breaks. They just lacked quality in the final third. They weren't clinical enough, weren't ruthless enough. So, no, listen, it wasn't a great performance. I've not been able to hear Russell Martin's press conference, but I mean, I hope he doesn't sugarcoat it, because the punters aren't fooled. Of course, they'll be delighted to get through this tie and get into the playoffs. It gives them a crack, at least, to get into this Champions League group phase, which would be, listen, if they could do it, it'd be a remarkable achievement for Martin and these players. Obviously, we're hosting new signings, but I think you'll agree, if they play like that against Club Brugge in the playoff tie, I think it's difficult to see how Rangers would get through that.
It will be interesting to hear how Russell Martin sort of assesses that performance, Scott. And I'll tell you for why, because before the game, and it's a bit flowery, this stuff, the outcome over process. I won't get emotional about the outcome so long as the process is there. Well, he should be tearing his hair out watching that tonight in terms of the process and the level of performance. Because if anything, Rangers look worse 6 games in than they did at the start of the process.
Yeah, see, in the first half, it was so loose and ragged, Jacko. When you think Russell Martin's renowned for being a possession-based coach, yet Rangers were just constantly giving the ball away. Now, listen again, I try to be positive. There were little chinks that you could see what he was trying to do. For instance, in the first half, they'd obviously looked at Plzen and realised we had a bit of movement. In terms of when Jack Butland has the ball. There was an avenue there for Butland to get into either Dessers or Antman with a pass and get Rangers moving. And a couple of times they actually did the first part really well. But either Dessers couldn't hold it up because his touch wasn't good enough, or he was being out-muscled by the boy Dway at the back, or when it went to the wide players, as I say, they just lacked that bit of quality. Now, listen, I'm clutching at straws here because, I mean, that is just tiny details. Obviously Russell Martin wants them to develop and wants them to get better at. But as you say, it's just there's no cohesion. You'd expected a bit more cohesion, a bit more fluidity, certainly more chances. And even at the other end, when we were in the press room there with the boys, we've seen the stats coming up. I mean, Plzen had 27 shots tonight. I think in Russell Martin's tenure so far, Rangers are giving up on average something like 17 shots a goal, 17 shots a game. I mean, that just...
Scott, I was just about to raise that very point, right? Marzuno's got the stats there. Stats are wild. Plzen's 27 shots, 10 on target, 7 clear-cut chances. Now, my kind of worry from the Rangers' point of view is, Scott, they weren't a great side last season. They weren't dominating matches in the middle of the pitch. They weren't, ruthless at the other end. But at least they could be fairly robust defensively. I'm looking at the performances last tonight. You're looking at your two fullbacks. I will maintain that I think Tavernier's probably still an upgrade on Max Aarons, who wasn't fit and didn't travel at all before the game. I think I would have played Tavernier if I was Russell Martin. I think he would have been my first pick for the game. But he was roasted all night down that side. Yefte, I mean, that's comic book stuff from Yefte at the first goal. But he was doing it all night. So there's your two fullbacks that are not performing anywhere near an appropriate level to survive in European football. I think Big Suter had a really, really impressive couple of ties against Panathinaikos. I thought he was ropey as anything. Tonight, Jigger did okay, I suppose. In midfield, you'd probably give just about pass marks to Raskin and certainly, as you said, Cameron. And after that, you're right, Butland's the only guy that you can look at and say what a performance that was. And that's probably 2 ties now that he's kept Rangers, alive.
I'm glad you mentioned the fullbacks, Jaco, because I was doing the ratings obviously during the game. You're never quite sure. Obviously, people see games differently, but
I thought they were hopeless.
In the first half, I actually thought James Tavernier was carrying an injury. I thought he had a knock because he gave the ball away so cheaply and so often. It was incredible. And defensively, had no intensity whatsoever in terms of one-on-one defensive duels. Actually, I genuinely thought he was carrying something. He improved slightly in the second half. Jeffy, I agree with you as well. To me, I mean, it was ironic. Russell Martin spoke at the press conference about Nico Raskin's head getting turned.
Exactly.
Jeffy looked like a guy tonight whose head was elsewhere.
Halfway to South America.
Yeah, I'm much talking this potential move back to Brazil with Palmeiras apparently interested, but he was so poor. I totally agree. In midfield, you're right, Raskin, I thought struggled to get a grip of the game in the first half, but when it went to one each, I thought he got a bit more control and could dictate the tempo a wee bit more. Diomande, Jacko, I don't know.
I tell you what, Scott, I tell you what, he does brilliant for the goal, Diomande. I don't know if you've seen it, but he just sets up. He makes that goal because he sets off in the run. and it was a brilliant run in behind, and he got on the end of it, and he did well to get back into Danilo. But that was really his one moment in the 90 minutes.
I've actually said in the ratings, listen, he's got bags of energy, he runs all day. I'm struggling to see where he fits into a Russell Martin possession-based team, because I don't think he keeps the ball well enough. I think he's far too loose in possession. And look, the problem with this Rangers midfield, I mean, Cameron scored the night. He's the only midfielder that looks to try and get in the box and affect.
Get beyond the striker.
Aye, I mean, you look at, I know you're constantly kind of looking across the city, but you look at Celtic's midfield. I mean, they played Aberdeen at the weekend. You know, they get their 2 goals for Nygren and Hatate in midfield. I think last season, I'm pretty sure McGregor, Engels and Hatate roughly get into double figures apiece. Rangers midfield's nowhere near that, because Rothwell and Raskin don't look like getting you goals. Diomande doesn't look like getting you goals.
Raskin can do it, as he proved last season, though, Scott, if he has played a little bit further up the pitch. But the problem for me is in this system so far, okay, today, and again, I find it strange, tonight he was given the start in the number 6 position to dominate from the middle. Then when Rothwell comes off the bench, I was fully expecting Raskin to get told to go further up again a little bit, and maybe more on the left-hand side. He stays in the middle, and Rodwell goes on the left. Yep. It just feels all confused to me. I have to be honest, Scott. It just looks really confused.
It is. It still looks a bit muddled. And look, we knew it was going to take time. You said it. No, Russell Martin's constantly said that there's going to be a bit of pain before it gets better. But Jacko, the reaction of fans, I mean, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't judge it on social media and message boards and stuff like that, but the supporters aren't happy. I mean, it's early days in this manager's tenure, and listen, he's explained it all, he's ironed it out in terms of what he's trying to do. It's going to take time to implement a new style, change the culture, change the mentality. I don't think fans are seeing enough progress. I keep going back to this. Russell Martin himself said when the day he was appointed that he was coming in to make huge changes to Rangers, real cultural changes at the club on and off the pitch. But he recognised that he had to do that whilst winning.
Winning games.
I'm pretty sure Patrick Stewart, the quote Patrick Stewart used around about Martin's unveiling was it was something along the lines of you need to basically build the plane while flying it at the same time, right? And listen, they were right, but we're 2 league games in and they haven't been able to do that. Haven't been able to win a game. They've obviously lost the night. As I say, the hard work was done in the first leg. He cut them a wee bit of slack because they've got through, and that was the ultimate goal. But I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for Russell Martin. He's trying to change a lot of things, but he needs results. And so far, obviously, in the league, they haven't come.
But this is a guy that's so much based on performance, Scott. He surely needs performances. And I get it. You can, Rome wasn't built in a night, etc., reinventing the wheel. You can throw any cliche you want at it, but the bottom line is you're watching with your own eyes. The performance levels are not improving. If anything, they're slightly more confused looking than they were 6 games back. That'd be the worry for me.
Aye, that's a big worry. Listen, Jack, I'm about to get moved out of this stadium here, so I'm going to try and walk down these stairs.
Okay, mate. This is the glamour of the job, Scotty. Is the henchmen? I see a guy behind you.
It's him that's throwing me out, and he's a lot bigger than me, so I'm not going to argue with him.
Everybody's a lot bigger than you, wee man. Exactly. Listen, I'm going to bring something up while you're walking down there, because what you won't have seen, Scott, is at the start of the second half, I think the Plzen players were out nice and early, waiting for Rangers to come out. When Rangers emerged from the tunnel about a couple of minutes later, they were kind of walking out, they were strolling out, they were talking to one another, and you're thinking, I'm not sure that's the reaction that you should be showing, given the nature of that first half performance. You would have thought they'd come busting out that tunnel and, ready to sort of at least try and raise the standard of performance. And if anything, they started the second half slightly worse than the first.
I totally agree, Jack. I thought when they went in at half time, there was going to be I thought Russell Martin would get in about them. And again, I mean, how many times have we spoken about the tempo, the urgency, the intensity in a play that again wasn't there in the first half. But as you say, they came out the second half, and it was arguably even worse in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
That's a worry. That's a big worry. Look,
by the way, you've handled that magnificently, Scotty.
I know. I don't know how I've managed to get out of that stadium while carrying that. No, look, there's still going to be a lot of changes. Obviously, Mikey Moore will come in on Saturday for the cup game, and I've no doubt he will add something. I know he's a young player, but he will definitely bring something different to them. I think he's got real quality. He's obviously just signed his new deal at Spurs. Russell Martin said yesterday Asgard and Egerman will be in the squad for the Alloa game. So that, you would hope, would give them something a bit extra, certainly more options. Especially Asgard. I mean, we're not quite sure how what Egerman is going to look like coming back from injury. Obviously, all the speculation surrounding him in the summer. But Asgard is somebody who, I mean, I'm talking about the midfield and the kind of lack of attacking threat or goal threat. Asgard's somebody that could potentially give them that. I think that position tonight where Diomande played is the kind of left number 8. I'm convinced that that's where Russell Martin wants to play Asgard.
Okay.
Look at a lot of his clips for Wigan and Luton and that. That's where he tends to pick the ball up and do some damage. So but that'll make a difference to him. How big a difference? Who knows?
Well, listen, Scott, you're obviously playing a blinder here, so I'll not keep you too long. I would imagine you're trying to order an Uber as we speak as well. But in terms of, was there any word, did you hear anything afterwards on the extent of the injury to Dessers? Because I think that'll be a huge concern for some Rangers supporters tonight. I don't think they're madly in love with Cyril Dessers, but they know that right now he's their best bet at the number 9. And he looked fairly uncomfortable coming off that tonight.
It looked a bad one. I mean, you probably saw it better. It was on the opposite side of the pitch to us in the press box, but it looked like an ankle injury, and he was obviously in a bit of pain. I mean, I suppose the good thing was he managed to walk round the pitch, to get off, so it might not be as bad as first feared. But no, I've not heard an update yet. But you're right. I mean, Rangers are struggling for strikers as it is. I don't think. I thought Danilo actually improved him when he came on tonight in terms of his kind of link-up play, but I still don't think he's good enough to be Rangers number 9. No. There's still question marks over Dessers. I think it's an absolute must before the window closes that Rangers get another striker in.
Robert Fraser just said there, Scott, guys, in 6 competitive games, Rangers have conceded 101 shots on our goal. That's staggering. But the concerning bit is anybody that saw what Southampton looked like last season in the Premier League wouldn't be necessarily surprised by that. No,
and that can't continue. You can't be successful when you're conceding that amount of shots. I'm sure Russell Martin would argue, look, because it's early in the process, they're obviously playing a lot. No, they're playing out for the back. Passes are a lot riskier. Well, John Souttar's trying passes in the last few games. And I actually admire Souttar for it because it's brave for a centre back, and he gets caught at times. They get caught. They get done a few times tonight with passes that he tried to drill into midfield. Didn't hit the target, and they ended up on the back foot again. But that's why they're conceding. A lot of these shots that we're talking about are coming from actual Rangers possession.
Yeah. Look, in terms of that, Scott, I had a note because I was taking them at the time towards the end of that game. So he makes his substitution with Dowell and Rodwell coming on for Cameron and Diomande. And I think within, 30 seconds of them coming onto the pitch, Dowell's dispossessed in the middle of the pitch. Viktoria Plzen break on Rangers. Rothwell tries to tidy it up, and then he gets mugged, and it's ended up with a shot just over the bar. It was actually a right chance. They should have buried it. But that's kind of symptomatic just now, isn't it? Dowell can't get a break. Every time he comes onto a pitch, he looks as if he's nervous. Rothwell took a time to settle. But see, from that point on, I've got that note, 69 minutes. From that minute on, so you've got a good 20-odd minutes, the 90 left. I could count about 5 or 6 instances where Rangers were guilty, giving the ball away, causing their own defensive problems. And that's the point when you're seeing out a tie with 3-0, 3-goal advantage from the first leg. And I tell you why I mention all that, right? Because we've got Neil Mathers here sends in a comment. Thanks, everybody, for sending in your comments. And thanks, by the way, for joining us at this time of night. But Neil says, we have a game plan in Europe. Some can't see it, though, even though it's got us through 2 ties. I'm in the camp that I can't see it. I mean, I don't know how anybody could have watched these ties and thought Rangers were in control and they knew what they were doing in order to get through the process and get the outcome that Russell Martin wanted.
So is that guy saying that Russell Martin's plan tonight was to concede 27 shots at his goal, still managed to get through? I mean,
it does appear to be, that does appear to be the point.
Look, see in terms of the keeping the ball, I mean, look, it has to improve, and you'd expect it to improve. I mean, it's interesting. I remember when Russell Martin was appointed, I spoke to one of the journalists at Southampton, covers Southampton, and he spoke about when Martin first started.
Viktoria Plzen.
Brendan, you're Scottish.
Yeah, seriously. No, I spoke to a guy at Southampton, and he mentioned a game, Jack, where you can actually look back at it very early in his tenure at Southampton. I think it was against Sheffield Wednesday, and they went down to 10 men in a game. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody expected Sheffield Wednesday to go and win the game or get a goal back, something like that. And the journalist that I was speaking to said it was brilliant, basically because of how Martin had coached them. For the last 10 minutes of the game, even with 10 men, Sheffield Wednesday just couldn't get the ball off Southampton. So they were able to see the game out purely by keeping possession. Now that's what he's all about. But you're right, this Rangers team at the moment, despite it being early, looks a million miles away from that. I mean, I thought the first half of the night they were struggling to string 5 and 6 passes together. So
that's the difficult bit. That's the difficult bit for me to understand, Scott. It's the basics. I don't think they're being asked, really. It shouldn't be that complicated, but it seems to be getting more and more messy.
Do you not think, looking at them, Jack, there's an element of, this might just be me, but I'm watching them and there's almost an element of, whenever they get the ball, it's in their mind, we need to stick to the game plan. We need to stick to it. Aye, we need to just keep the ball rather than acting on instinct, going forward or trying to go past a man. It just looked like, as I say, I think when certain players are getting the ball, they're thinking, right, what should I do here? What have I been told to do as part of this process? Now, listen, maybe that's what has to happen initially. Maybe that's part of the campaign that Russell Martin's talking about, and eventually they come out the other end and it does all become natural and fluid. But it's just difficult to see that. It's difficult to see that progress at the moment.
Yeah. And I in some ways, perhaps he's been really fortunate as well, because if you look at the 2 legs against Panathinaikos, it was Jack Butland that kept them in them and got them through that tie. Jack Butland again tonight. And so far, they've kind of come up against, I think, 2 fairly average European sides. But, Scott, the news is that Brugge, even though they were 2-0 down in the first half of their kind of second leg tonight against RB Salzburg, they come back from that. They've got through an aggregate. So they await for Rangers in the playoff round for the Champions League. I think you were at Ibrox earlier this summer to watch Brugge play Rangers in a friendly. And from memory, Scott, I think Rangers had a pretty hard time of it that day as well for at least the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, they did. And Rangers got back into it in the second half, but it was after obviously Brugge made a lot of changes. I mean, Rangers made changes as well, but no, Brugge were impressive in the first half. And even more importantly, Jack, we just look at that result tonight for Brugge, even just getting through that tie. I mean, Salzburg are no mugs themselves, with the kind of financial backing they've got. And also, I was at Celtic Park last season and watched Club Brugge against Celtic, the Champions League. And honestly, they were one of the best teams I've seen all last.
They were great, weren't they?
They were absolutely terrific. And I know they actually only got a draw at Celtic Park, but I thought Celtic were fortunate that night to get a point. Guys like Van Aken, the captain who plays with Nico Raskin in the Belgium team, absolutely brilliant player. They've got a few others, very dangerous. And listen, as I said at the start, I don't think it's impossible for Rangers by any stretch. But no, if they produce the same performances they did at home against Plzen, they've maybe got a chance. Obviously with the crowd behind them. But I'm just watching the night and watching where they are in terms of the kind of progress under Martin. That looks like a really difficult tie for me. In terms of Club Brugge's, the quality that they've got. So it's going to be interesting. People might argue, look, in terms of where Rangers are, Europa League might be ideal for them to get into the group stages of that. Obviously, there's the kind of financial rewards of getting into the Champions League, of course. That's where every club kind of wants to be, in terms of the kind of glamour that brings. But I think it's going to be a really tough tie against Brugge. And right now, as it stands, you'd need to make the Belgians favourites for that, surely.
Well, one thing about that, Scott, before I let you go, is obviously Rangers had originally planned to postpone their game against St Mirren in the league to give them a bit more preparation time for the playoff round of the Champions League. That was curious, isn't it? The last 24 hours, what's happened there. Russell Martin kind of questioned before the game last night at his press conference, saying, well, at this minute in time, I think we're playing it, even though the board have made an official request to get it postponed. I don't care whatever way you look at it, it doesn't look great, does it? Either Russell Martin, I wonder, could there be an element here because it's the title head coach? Because you would think a manager in the good old-fashioned sense would be right on top of that and say, well, there's no way we're cancelling that St Mirren game because look where we could be in the league at that point. Nobody wants to start a season like that. But it looks as if, I'm not sure, either Martin wasn't involved in the decision-making process, which isn't a great look, or he hadn't quite worked out how serious this could get if Celtic were in a position where they could go 10 points clear. What was your take on it?
Well, look, one thing's for sure, you said it yourself, it's not a great look for Rangers or the board. I don't think, in terms of the chief exec, that from the outside, it looks like, initially when the SPFL announced, way back when they announced that they were going to bring this rule in for this season where you could cancel a league game for a European playoff. I think just initially, because we've had so many stories in years gone by about the league not giving our clubs more of a chance, more of a breather before these vital games, financially lucrative kind of games, so much at stake. I think just everyone at Rangers seemed to think, well, we'll definitely cancel the St Mirren game if we get to the playoff, just to give you a bit of, just to give you better preparation. Obviously, St Mirren's a tough place to go at the best of times.
It's a difficult away game in Scottish top flight terms, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But what's happened since then, certainly in the last few days, I just don't think it looks good. Again, from the outside, it looks like, first of all, there's Nasser Jiga's suspension. If the St Mirren game is postponed, obviously we then miss the Celtic game. I don't think Rangers are keen on that, given the kind of defensive cover they've got or lack of it. But also, as you say, it's the league position now. Russell Martin was adamant last night at the press conference that, look, we won't, we're not looking at league tables. It's not even the end of August yet. That certainly won't dictate whether we postpone a game. You need to take him at his word with that. But certainly for outsiders looking in, it looks exactly like that because Rangers, because of the two draws in the first two games, there's a real danger that if the St Mirren game was postponed and Celtic win at Ibrox, Rangers could, 10 points, potentially 10 points behind. And
before the end of August, yeah.
Yeah, which would be, that's quite something, Jacko. I mean, the last few years it feels like we've kind of bemoaned the fact that the league title race has pretty much been over by, maybe November, the new year, maybe going into January, February. I mean, to think of a 10-point gap at the top with Celtic winning the first Old Firm game, as you say, by the first week in September. I mean, that's no good. And that's what slightly worries me about Russell Martin. Listen, I like him and I think he talks really well. Obviously, he's a good coach, a good manager. It worries me slightly, some of the things that he's saying publicly, just in terms of the kind of fans' reaction. Like last night, for instance, just a throwaway line saying, we're unbeaten in 5.
That was a bad line. That was a bad line. That's just, he's been badly advised there. Somebody needs to get a hold of him and tell him not to say stuff. Philip Clement said some stuff like that, Scott, and it just doesn't cut it with the supporters.
It's not going to wash with punters when there's draws against Motherwell and Dundee. And it was similar. The other thing, what I was going to say was, again last night, him saying we're not looking at a league table and the league table doesn't matter at the end of August. I'm sorry, but in Glasgow, it does matter. I mean, it matters after one game when you're, if you're a Rangers fan and Celtic go 2 points clear on the opening day, given the fact that they've won 4 titles in a row, 13 out the last 14, whatever it is. So, listen, I think Philippe Clement and Michael Beale before him, part of the reason why they ended up losing their jobs was not paying enough attention to the league table and trying to ensure that the Rangers didn't fall too far behind. So there's a danger of that happening again, and I think he has to be careful with stuff like that. Look, he knows results domestically have to come. I'm sure they will eventually. But the thought of going that far behind Celtic so early, I mean, I heard that, I think it was on social media or one of the radio channels today, and it was a fan phoning in saying, look, if this happens and Celtic win that first Old Firm game to go 10 clear, how can you as a club ask fans to go and buy season tickets at £700, £800 and the league's effectively over by September? I mean, that just can't happen. And look, of course, there's a long way to go. Celtic, I don't think are in a brilliant place in terms of their squad, but that would be a massive gap so early in the season.
Well, Scott, listen, we'll wind it up on this. Where's that comment from? No, hold on. It'll be worth it, Scott. Singing the Blues says it's shocking keeping wee Scott talking, Keith. He'll be choking for a star of Pramin.
that guy must know me.
And in that bombshell, Scott,
that must be one of my mates.
Hey, well, listen, enjoy it when you get back to the hotel bar, and safe travels home tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you soon on the show, mate.
No worries. Cheers, Jacko.
Thanks for joining us, Scott, and thanks everybody at home for joining us. Thanks for all the comments, and we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Thanks, guys. Cheers.